the amount of fossil fuels. Oh, sorry, just got the recording. Forgot to remind about the recording. So again, Renewable Heat Now is a campaign of 20 statewide groups that have joined together to accelerate the adoption of ground source heat pumps, also known as geothermal, and air source heat pumps in New York State to reduce the amount of fossil fuel use to heat and cool our homes and workplaces. We also educate the public about heat pumps, and we advocate for New York State policies that will enable all New Yorkers to afford to make the switch to renewable ready heating and cooling. I'd also add that we're engaged in the transition overall from fossil fuel appliances in our homes and buildings to the renewable electric alternatives. And we support, of course, a just, affordable, and equitable transition to renewable heating and cooling. So next, also just a reminder on why we focus on buildings. So we focus on buildings because they are New York's largest source of greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels for heating, hot water, and cooking. There's also methane leaks along the gas fracking and distribution system, so the cradle to grave process of getting the gas, fracking for the gas, distributing it along the system and bringing it into your home, then the emissions there. There's also growing evidence of the health and safety risks of and impacts from gas appliances, including risks and rates of respiratory health issues, like asthma in children, for example. So these are some of the many reasons why this campaign is focused on the transition to renewable heating and cooling, building electrification, or you may have heard of it as called building decarbonization, and this transition off fossil fuels in our homes and buildings to the renewable alternatives. So that is your wrap up of our campaign of what we're doing here and accomplishing. And next, I'm going to toss it to Liz Moran at Earth Justice, who's going to go over this really amazing momentum building for the New York Heat Act. That's our big campaign right now, is getting the New York Heat Act passed. And the amazing rally and lobby day that took place last week with many of you there. Everyone really did an amazing job, and it was super powerful and inspirational. So over to you, Liz.
Thanks so much, Renee. Hi, everyone. Good to see you this evening. My name is Liz Moran. I'm a New York policy advocate with Earth Justice. And the Heat Act is a beautiful piece of policy because it addresses a lot of elements that this 2023 demonstrated we absolutely have to address in this upcoming state budget. 2023 was a record-breaking year when it came to climate change, right? It was literally the hottest year ever recorded. June through November were actually the hottest months ever recorded for those given months. And then New York State really saw firsthand just how devastating the impacts of climate change are going to be. We had the dangerous air quality from the wildfires in Canada. We had unprecedented flooding that actually caused Amtrak and Metro North to shut down. So hundreds of people were actually left stranded. And then we had heat waves that caused problems as kids were starting school this year. The list can go on and on. This is not the first year that we're facing problems with this, right? So it's really important that the New York State governor and legislature make sure this coming budget makes New Yorkers' lives easier and addresses climate change. So that's what the NY Heat Act will do. Will help us tackle one of the biggest sources of greenhouse gas emissions in New York State by getting at what's powering most of our homes and buildings now, and that's the gas system. So that's one element of the NY Heat Act. The other thing the NY Heat Act will do by getting at gas is making sure that we're actually healthier and safer. Combusting gas in buildings has actually been attributed to a number of illnesses and even premature death. To top it all off, gas lines break and cause major emergencies. So getting away from gas is going to make our communities healthier and safer. Not only that, it's going to create good jobs. That's the beauty of acting on climate, is we usually get a 1-2 punch, and we end up creating a lot of jobs, when it comes to getting more renewable energy online, transitioning homes, Away from gas means more people installing heat pumps. It means jobs retrofitting homes, making envelopes tighter and more insulated. So good jobs there. And then the last piece that is so important about NY Heat is energy affordability. Energy bills have been skyrocketing in New York State. And this is only going to get worse as we continue to rely upon gas. Gas prices continue to go up. They're wildly volatile. On top of it all, gas infrastructure is getting really old. So maintaining this infrastructure that ultimately we need to get away from is costing us more and more money. And ratepayers are shouldering those expenses. Utilities across the state are looking to actually increase rates. So the NY Heat Act includes a number of provisions that will ensure that utility bills do not continue to skyrocket. And there's protections for New Yorkers while we're also getting people away from our costly gas system. So with that overview of the New York Heat Act, let's move on to the next slide. This is one of the biggest climate bills in Albany right now. So last week, we had hundreds of New Yorkers come to Albany calling for the NY Heat Act to make it into the final budget. So as you can see through these pictures, we had over 300 folks show up. We had 35 lobby teams, and everyone ended up reaching out to 138 lawmakers. That's absolutely huge. That is basically every member of the majority in both houses. So that means a lot of people heard from us about how important it is to include the NY Heat Act in the final budget. Next slide. Also, before I forget, thank you to Sierra Club for providing really good lunches for everybody, for those hundreds of people that showed up. So here's a picture of our event. I bet a bunch of you here right now were part of this. We took up, this is the $1 Million Staircase in the Capitol, for those who are not familiar, very popular place for events. We had people packing this staircase from the 3rd floor all the way to the 4th floor. You could see on the balcony, people looking up, and you can actually see the snippet right in the front here. This first row and a couple folks in the back are actually lawmakers. We had a ton of elected officials that showed up to this event to join us in calling for the budget to include the NY Heat Act, and joined us in pressuring their leadership in listening to us and listening to them to make sure that this climate policy is in the final budget. Let's see. Next slide. So here's some more pictures from the event. We had over 25 lawmakers that showed up. It was awesome. They all spoke, all did a great job. And you can also see pictured here 6th Street Community Center, finishing us out with youth voices, making sure that we remember the reason why we really do need to act on climate change. And it's to protect ourselves and generations to come, to make sure that we still have a familiar looking planet. Next slide. So, okay, we had this rally. Why do we have this rally when we have it? And what do we need to do to get this across the finish line? Unfortunately, we're still early in the budget process. Not that early, though. Everything moves pretty quick. So the governor released her budget, which included major elements of the NY Heat Act in her budget proposal. That was released on January 16th. Now we're moving along and we're trying to pressure the Assembly and the Senate to include in their respective one-house budgets the NY Heat Act, the standalone bill that we're supporting. The Senate and Assembly have one-house budgets as a negotiating tool. This is basically what their houses view as the ideal budget. So right now, that's what we're focusing on, is pressuring the Senate and the Assembly to include it in their one-house budget. Many of you have been helping right now to influence that process. We're working to make sure a bunch of lawmakers sign on to letters urging their leadership of their respective houses to support the NY Heat Act in their one house budgets. So sometime in early March is when we anticipate those one house budgets coming out. So this is really crunch time to make sure that we get every single version of the budget to include NY Heat, and that's the NY Heat Act that we want to see. Something that's strong, doesn't have any loopholes, makes sure that consumers are protected, and adequately provides measures to get us away from the gas system. So once the one house budgets come out, that's when negotiating is underway. A lot of that happens behind closed doors, but that doesn't mean our ability to influence the outcome is gone. We'll need to do a lot of work. You're going to hear about it. There's going to be another action where we're going to need folks to show up. There's going to be plenty of opportunities to keep raising your voices all throughout this process. But ultimately, so long as everything is on time, by April 1st, we will have a budget. And at that point, we're going to win. We've been making a lot of momentum. And I think that we're really on the right track here. So we just have to keep it up. So with that, I'm going to turn to Lisa, who's going to walk us through how we do that.
Thank you so much, Liz. And thanks everybody for being here and getting us to this point. All of you were with us in Albany, even if you couldn't be there yourself. We know that you were part of it. You helped us get the momentum. You helped us get the governors, that most of the New York Heat Act in the governor's budget. And now we're working on the legislature. So Claire, if I could have the next slide, that would be splendid. Thank you. So I'm going to walk you through some of the next steps that we're going to do, and then we're all going to take action together tonight with Andra. So, or actually with me and Andra. So we have a whole menu of things, but Liz mentioned these one house budgets. So the first part of that is right now, all the legislators are talking to each other and talking to the leadership in the Senate and the Assembly about what are their budget priorities. And they're circulating budget letters to sign on. So we're going to take an action about that. We need to keep making all these calls and emails like you guys have already made, and we're going to be doing more of that tonight and throughout February. We're going to schedule a virtual lobby week because we know that a lot of you just can't come to Albany to lobby, and your legislators deserve to hear from you in the district or on Zoom. So we're going to set that up for you. And then we're going to go back to Albany on March 13th, as we discussed. So next slide. Okay. So this is a little bit of a wonky ask, but as you guys know, right here, this beautiful lady in the blue is Assemblywoman Pat Fahey, and she is the prime assembly sponsor for the New York Heat Act. So her office released a very nice letter asking her colleagues to sign on and show their support for putting the New York Heat Act in the budget. So I'm going to share with all you guys in the chat a Google document that I hope you can open. I will also email it out after this call, but I'd love everybody to take a look at it now and to start to draft an email to send to your assembly person, asking them to sign on to Member Fahey's letter. If they are already a co-sponsor of the bill. If they're not a co-sponsor of the bill, please ask them to co-sponsor the bill. And if your member is a Republican, we know they're just not going to co-sponsor this bill. So instead, we'd ask you to just write to Speaker Hasty, who is the leader of the Assembly. The Assembly of the two houses has been the harder one to get in the past. The budget, the Senate has really supported this bill. So right now we're really, although we're not going to ignore the Senate, we're really focusing on the Assembly, and this signing onto this letter is one of the most important ways that your assembly person can show Speaker Hasty that they really want NY Heat in the budget. So I'm just going to pause for a minute and ask you to see if you can open that document and go into your email and draft an email to your assembly member. There's a way to look it up if you don't know who they are. And you'll also want to look them up so you can see what how to contact them and send them a little email. So we're gonna just give you 60 seconds to take a look at that and get that started. I wish we had music to play. We didn't think of that. I'm just going to mute myself and give you guys a minute to get that done. If you have questions about this action and are not sure how to do it, you can raise your hand and I can call on you and unmute you. Renee, if they're already signed on, that's a great question. Please write them an email and tell them that just a thank you note. Thank them for being a supporter of the New York Heat Act. Tell them how important it is to you and that you're so proud to have them representing you. You can just riff off the first one, but take out the sign on. Just let them know.
Also, hi, fellow Renee. I love it when there's other Renees because I don't always meet. I was like, I thought you were talking to me, Lisa, and then I was like, oh, there's another Renee.
No, not you. There's another.
We're unusual in that way, aren't we?
I love it.
Okay, I'm going to give you guys 20 more seconds. Okay. So even if you haven't hit send, you can go back and hit send after this meeting or in the morning. Take note that I did suggest the subject heading that has the bill number in the subject heading. Oftentimes, it's not going to be, of course, your legislator who reads these emails, right? It's going to be maybe an intern who just has to log how many letters or phone calls you got in support of the bill or against the bill, and they'll probably just stick it in a file. So, as much as we hope that our legislators sit down at night with a cup of tea and read all of our emails, that probably isn't true. So it's good to just make sure that your intention is very clear right at the top of the email. Okay. So let's move to the next item. Next slide, please. So virtual lobbying. We did this last year. We did a virtual lobby day for NY Heat, and it was pretty successful. And then we got a bunch of other meetings that weren't on that day, and a lot of you participated, and they were really. Oh, thanks for the. I'm getting a typo correction, so we'll fix that. If you notice the typo in the emails, we'll get that fixed. Please fix it in yours. So a lot of you participated, and it's a great way to engage legislators from the comfort of your home. If you're either unable to travel to Albany or for any other reason, or you just want to do both. Some people do both. So we don't have these meetings set up. That's actually our job next week, is to set up the meetings. So what I have is this Google form, which is, I believe, in the chat now. So we're just going to ask you to take a minute to fill out that Google form so that we can start to organize lobby meetings for the week of February 26th. And we will contact you so that you can sign up for the individual meetings once they are scheduled. you're not obligating yourself to anything by filling out the Google form. You're just expressing some interest. So if you just take a moment to fill out the Google form now. Oh, I see 3 people have signed up. Oh, I've got 6 people signed up. Thank you, thank you, thank you. 7, 8.
It does take a little while to sign up because we're asking you to put in your assembly member and senator. That makes it so much easier to figure out who we have in our pool of lobbyers.
9 signups. Yes, it is taking a little longer, and that's also going to make it much easier to organize. Please resend the link to the Google form. Sure, right here. I'm just going to post it in the chat again, right here. There you go. Sierra Club Lower Hudson Group. Okay. Is that you, Hal? Oh, 14 signups. Okay, great. So keep those signups coming. And we really appreciate you guys so much. By the way, it goes without saying that both of these actions we've asked you to do tonight, please take them home to your local group and your friends and family and ask them to do it too, because we have to get lots and lots of emails and lobby visits in, as Liz was saying, to keep influencing this process all the way till the end until the budget is finalized. So I think that's it for me. And I'm going to turn you over now to the very capable hands of Andra from Agree.
Oh, unmute myself. Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Andra with Alliance for a Green Economy. I'm the program director there. And we are asking you to do a lot of things tonight during this call, but don't worry, we're going to send you an email that will have all of these links in it, and you'll be getting that tomorrow. So that way it'll be easy to share it with your other people, with your neighbors and friends. So the next action item we have is we're going to ask you to see if you have time to do any phone banking over the coming 2 months. Food and Water Watch is graciously hosting Wednesday and Thursday phone bank events, and they will do training with you, and they will walk you through how to do this, and you'll be calling friendly people. You'll be calling people on their list of members. So it's people who are already involved in environmental, energy, and climate work, and people who are already used to getting these kinds of calls. And the purpose is to try to generate a lot of calls to our legislators so that they are hearing how popular the New York Heat Act is, and so that it does not fall off the radar. Next slide, please, Claire. Sorry, I have to copy a link and paste it in, and it always takes me a little longer with
Andra,
that.
I'm doing your links for you.
Oh, thank you. I love you. Okay, so
Yeah.
New York Renews reached out to us about co-branding a social media storm for this week, and we said, sure. And we love the messaging. There is no climate, jobs, and justice without the New York Heat Act. Their target date was actually yesterday, but they said they're happy to have a second boost of activity from this group's participation in the social media event tonight or tomorrow morning. So Lisa's going to put the social media toolkit into the chat. So anyone on social media is encouraged to post, tag, and share from that toolkit. And the update today from New York Renews about this storm was that over 70 organizations signed up to post, and they got a report with the engagement that was generated with the hashtag New York Heat. And it showed that they had 176 posts yesterday with a potential reach of over 300,000 people. How many people saw those posts? So that's a great way to keep New York Heat in the front of everyone's minds as we're asking the legislators to sign onto those budget letters and as we are conducting our February lobbying. And also, please stay tuned for our very own Valentine's themed New York Heat social media action that we'll be rolling out, probably in the next 10 days. Next slide, please. And now is a very good time to put our next month's Power Hour on your calendar. That's going to be taking place on March 7th. And you'll be getting all the current information on how the New York Heat Act is doing and the budget process up to that point, and what we need to do to build even more momentum. So, Lisa, can
Grabbing. Yep, I'm getting.
thank you.
Give me a second. I bet people are still doing their social media posts.
I would do mine after because I like to focus more on it.
Okay, so this is the link to sign up for our March 7th meeting. One thing I'll just jump in, Nandra. We used to do signups through the Zoom, and now we do signups through Action Network. So let us know in the chat or in an email if that's not working for you, if you're not getting the emails and the reminders. We're doing it a little bit differently. So let us know if you're having trouble learning about how to get on this call. You might have noticed I did a calendar invitation, and I did it because I was worried you wouldn't get the email. So let me know. Am I annoying you? Are you getting the information you need? Give me all the feedback in the chat. All right, I'll mute myself, Andra, and get out of your way.
That's okay. That's a good thing to mention because we try to get the information out to you. And for those of us who are doing this work, we lose our links to things all the time. And it's like, can you send it to me again? So that's kind of how we operate with all of you. Okay, we can go on to the next slide. And so how we're going to keep building the pressure, how we're going to keep building the momentum is with the Albany Mobilization. And that's on March 13th. And we have some pretty big shoes to fill, right? We had this amazing event on January 23rd. We brought over 300 people. We involved over 25 legislators. So we have a lot of work to do before that. But we're counting on all of you to sign up and to bring your friends and neighbors. Think about who you'd like to bring along with you this time, right? It's a very fun time to share with friends who maybe are thinking about being more active on climate and energy issues. And it's an awesome firsthand experience on how and where our legislator does their work and interacts with the public. There were several student groups and their chaperones who came and had a really powerful experience at January's mobilization. So we encourage you to kind of think outside the box, think more broadly, and bring some new people with you on March 13th. And you have made it all the way to the special event tonight. Our talented and dedicated Renewable Heat Now communications team has created a New York Heat explainer video, which we are premiering tonight and which you will be able to share with legislators and with others. We're also going to be producing some shorter clips that will be suitable for social media platforms. So be on the lookout for that when we send them to you later this month. And you are the first group outside of the comms team to experience this premiere. We're going to take 4.5 minutes to view the video, and we would really love it if you would share your feedback and impressions by typing them into the chat. That would really help us know how this is landing with a broader audience of people. So if you could please start the video, Claire.
I just want to confirm that you can see the number 4.
I can see the number 4.
Okay. Shout if you cannot hear.
If you live in New York, you've probably seen your gas bill go up recently. If you live in New York, you've probably also seen this, or this recently. The culprits? This guy, and these guys. Right now, frackers inject toxic fluids into underground rock formations to release gas that is burned to heat our homes. But this system is dirty, dangerous, and disastrous for public health and the climate. Fracking fluids leak into our water supplies. Fracked gas pollutes the air we breathe, and burning fossil fuels like oil and gas releases greenhouse gas emissions that warm our planet and drive climate chaos. Our state leaders recognize that this system isn't working for us. In 2019, we passed the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, one of the strongest pieces of climate legislation in the country. The Climate Act requires the state to equitably move us away from oil and gas and to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions 40% by 2030 and 85% by 2050. We know we need to move away from oil and gas to protect our health, our climate, and to meet our Climate Act's goals. So why are our rising utility bills being used to expand the destructive gas system? Enter the New York Home Energy Affordable Transition Act. New York Heat for short. The New York Heat Act improves how we fund our energy system. It invests our bill payments in a cleaner and safer system, rather than making us pay for dirty gas. It also funds home weatherization and improvements to address our current and future energy needs. It protects the air we breathe, the water we drink, and is essential to meeting our climate goals. New York Heat ensures the future is one where we can thrive. How does it do that? New York Heat ends outdated practices that make us foot the bill for expanding the gas system. This includes things like the 100-foot rule, which forces all New Yorkers to pay for new gas connections. It also gets rid of a law requiring utilities to serve gas. They can instead invest in smarter alternatives, like clean, energy-efficient heat pumps and thermal energy networks that allow us to decarbonize entire neighborhoods at once. Okay. So we've gotten rid of the old stuff. How do we create something new? New York Heat has that covered. It requires the Public Service Commission, a government agency that oversees our utilities, to move us away from gas heating and towards renewable heating and cooling, all in time to meet the goals set out in our Climate Act. And you might be thinking, this sounds like a lot of change, and quick. Will this break my budget? No. And what about utility workers? Will their jobs be protected? Yes. New York Heat stops our bills from spiking to pay for the rising costs of gas. It also guarantees energy affordability for low and moderate income households by limiting utility bills to 6% of household income. It also creates high-skilled, well-paying union jobs building thermal energy networks, ensuring a just transition for pipe fitters. Okay, so you're sold. How can you help make this bill real? To help pass the New York Heat Act for cleaner heat and lower bills, go to the link below.
Yay.
Woo.
Is that Bryn?
That's our
Oh,
whole comms team working together. And
Yes.
Good job.
The voiceover.
yes, voiceover Bryn. That you were the first audience to ever view this video. It premiered tonight. This is like what do you call it? It hasn't even really premiered. This is like the premiere viewing, because I think they're still putting the finishing touches on it.
Right. So we can't share a link for you to share right away because they do want to, fix a few little glitches that are in there. But we'll be sharing it out with you.
We'll share it out with you in the follow-up email. And if you have thoughts to share, please email us back. And because we want to be able to use this as a tool for meetings that you're going to have with legislators and with people in your community, maybe people you're recruiting to come to the 13th to tell them why this is important. So we want this to be a useful tool for all of you, and we put a lot of work and love into it. It's good to see all the positive feedback. Sorry, Andra.
That's perfectly okay. Do you think we'll be having it up on our YouTube channel too? Is that where it's going to go?
For sure.
Okay.
And we're going to have shorter clips that are shareable on social media because different social media channels have different time limits for videos. So all of that is coming.
Well, that sounds great. So next slide, please, Claire. So we have given you a lot of to-dos. We started some of them, but we're going to review them now. So we've asked you to do the posting about the New York Heat Act on social media. That's our co-branded social storm with New York Renews. We are asking you to finish writing to your assembly member the letter that you started earlier, or to the speaker in case your assembly member is a Republican, and get that letter written sometime this week. We're inviting you to join phone banking with Food and Water Watch. They have a wonderful system in place, and they can walk you through it and make everybody feel comfortable doing it, even if you think you don't like doing phone banking. We think it's a really good idea to register for the March 7th Power Hour right now so that you don't forget about it. We encourage you to invite other people to do so as well, to register for the February 26th week of virtual lobbying. The legislators really need to hear this constant drip, drip, drip of New York heat, everything New York heat, how much people want New York heat, because they're going to be hearing a lot from the opposition. There are going to be lobbyists from the gas industry in their offices every day. But with our grassroots work, we can counteract that. We can be the voice of reason. We can give them the backup that they need to say, no, our constituents really want us to do the New York Heat Act. They need it for climate and affordability reasons. So it's up to us to give them that backup. And of course, we're hoping that you will come to the mobilization on March 13th. We love to see you in person. We love to rock the staircase. We love to just have all the color of the shirts and the signs and everybody's smiling faces there, promoting the New York Heat Act.
Thank you so much, Andra. I'm going to jump in. There was a great question in the chat, and we think we have a little bit of time. So this is something we haven't covered, is what's the difference between the governor's version of New York Heat and the bill, the Fahey-Krueger bill. We can share around a memo that is in progress. We can't share it yet. It compares it detail by detail, but generally speaking, there's sort of two major differences. One is the governor did put some things for immediate energy affordability into her budget, but not the 6% per household limit that's in the New York Heat Act. So obviously that's not it. That's not adequate. I do want to make it clear, all of the parts of the New York Heat Act contribute to energy affordability. But the 6% limit is a more immediate relief for energy burdened households than the sort of avoided future costs that are parts of the other pieces of the New York Heat Act. So that's one thing that we really need to work on. The other thing is a lot of places where the New York Heat Act has directives for the Public Service Commission, says that they shall do this or they shall do that, and it gives them a timeline. The governor's language says they may do this and they may do that, and leaves out some of those timelines, gives the state agency more freedom to decide when and how to make these changes, which is, understandable for the governor to defer maybe to the specialists in her agency, but we know how urgent this is and we really want those timelines in there. So we'll share a more detailed memo with anyone who's interested. It's getting really deep into the deep weeds of an already weedy bill, but some of you might be interested and you might get questions from legislators, and that's why there will be a memo comparing those. And we also can Anshul's going to put in the chat anything I left out. So anyway, that's yes, Sandra. So that's a little bit of a primer on that. And I don't think that is clear in the Fahey letter. I think the Fahey letter just says, here are the key components of the New York Heat Act, and this is why we need to pass it in the budget. But I don't think Assemblymember Fahey wants to pick a fight with the governor per se, right? She's going to just advocate for the bill and then going to say, it's all going to be negotiated out in the negotiation process. And that's why we have to show up and really advocate. We can't let them pick our bill to pieces and make it not worthwhile. We need it all. So all the pieces are important. That's why they're in there. Claire, do you want to unshare so that we can all see each other for a minute? And maybe
Last question.
Yeah, is there another question in the chat?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I know that many of you are very involved in this movement and involved in New York Heat in the Renewable Heat Now campaign, but I know you're also involved in a lot of other campaigns in the climate movement. I really just appreciate all of you who are here. We call this a power hour because this is really in our world, how we build political power, how we build personal power, how we build community and collective power. That's how we win. And, the reason that we are now like the top issue in New York State for climate is because of all of this organizing, all of us attending these monthly, meetings and building and pulling new friends and others into this. So a round of applause to all of us. Maybe we can all go off mute and do claps for the rally and lobby day last week, which was like huge, like 400, people or so. Kudos to Lisa, Andra, and Liz, who've been like critical and instrumental, our presenters today. And we'll see you all hopefully next month at the next meeting. And we're going to see you on the phones, on the Zooms, in district meetings in Albany. So we're going to see you at all the places. And I hope you guys have a fabulous night. And just thank you once again.